All right, we are live. I'm Chris Cillizza. You're looking at Brian Bengs, who is a Senate candidate in South Dakota. And interestingly for me, one of a number of candidates in the Plains states, the mountainous West, Kansas, South Dakota, Montana, Nebraska, who are running as independents this time around. We've got Mike Duggan running for governor in Michigan as an independent, and we've got 4 Senate candidates, which I think is fascinating. I think probably the best known is Dan Osborne in Nebraska, but who ran last time. Brian, I want to, first of all, why don't you, let's start here. You ran as a Democrat in 2022 against John Thune. You got 26% of the vote. I know what's obviously different is you're running as an independent this time. Why independent this time, and why do you think this is a race worth running?
Okay. Well, by way of background, I registered as an independent when I registered to vote when I was 18 years old. So I've spent 97% of my life as an independent, but for like 13-month period when I ran as the Democratic nominee. And I felt like I needed to be able to say that I tried to do something given what's going on in our country. So that was my motivation to run, and that is motivation to run again. And my look behind the curtain in 2022 really solidified my perception that there's a reason why independents nationally, that registered voters, have gone up to a record level 45%
Yeah.
now, because the dysfunction, the gridlock, and the best thing that I could say about National Democratic Party support for a candidate in South Dakota is that they did not give money to my opponent, John Thune. Chuck Schumer has written off South Dakota. He's written off a number of other states. So Chuck Schumer knows John Thune and likes John Thune apparently better than he likes South Dakota Democrats, because they were setting up not to have a candidate whatsoever. And as an independent, I would say I'm a proponent of competition. More competition is good. We need more competition in politics. We need more competition.
Agree.
And we're not getting it when you have team red, team blue, fight, 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 team red, team blue, fight, fight, fight. So that is why I'm running as an independent, because we need outside the box ideas that you're not getting from Team Red.
And tell me, you said you've been an independent most of your life. Tell me, are there, outside of the fact that you're right that Democrats are unlikely to spend in South Dakota in 2026 and didn't spend in South Dakota in 2022, what outside of that, when you look at the national party? Because look, as I said, you are not alone. South Dakota, Montana, Nebraska, and Kansas all have independents who were affiliated at some point, most of them with the Democratic Party, but aren't now, all running. In Montana, John Tester, the former Democratic senator, has basically said, like, the Democratic brand is toxic in Montana. Like, you have no chance if you're a Democrat in Montana at this point. Why do you think that? Do you think that is true in South Dakota as well? And if you do, why? What have Democrats done wrong? Because look, I'm old now. I'm 50. I remember.
Don't say that's old. I'm a little bit old.
Okay. Tom Daschle, Tim Johnson, and Stephanie Herseth. There was a time when all 3 South Dakota statewide federally elected officials were Democrats. And it wasn't 1950. It was in the 2000s. So what the hell happened?
I can tell you, I have an anecdote from, well, actually I have multiple anecdotes. You can wrap them up together, from 2022.
Okay.
I would go up to people at fairs, parades, any event. I could go up to people wearing a Trump hat, anybody. I would go up to them, introduce myself as a candidate for the Senate, and literally tell them, I'm going to guarantee with 100% certainty that you and I will agree on at least 2, but probably 3 things. And then I run down my list, bam, bam, bam. And generally it was all 3. They're nodding along. Yep, sounds good. Yep, I'm on board. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get to the end and I say, can I count on your vote in November? And the first words out of their mouth were, so what are you?
Right.
And when I say, well, I'm a lifelong independent, but I'm running as a Democrat. I heard far more. I wasn't surprised, but I heard it far more times than I expected to hear it. I'll never vote for a Democrat. And I couldn't put the wheels back on, even though we had a conversation, and they agreed with me. So they support the ideas. They just hate the letter.
It's really, really interesting, because I do think that's true, is that it just kind of, it's just disqualifying. in some way, right? It's like, well, we're not going to do that. So tell me how let's walk through the evolution of this. You run in 2022. It's obviously a difficult race. Um, Tell me why now again. Now you're not running against Thune, you're running against Mike Rounds, who is a little bit less established. So he was the governor of the state. He's in his second term as a senator. He's not.
His approval ratings right now are in the tank. In a previous era, he would have just wandered away because he was not going to be competitive. So he's banking on the fact that most recent poll has him at 36% approval. Our polls had him at 40. So between 36 and 40% approval,
Mhm.
he's banking that, yeah, we have enough hatred of Democrats that I can just skate back in, even though most people do not like me and what I'm doing.
So how do you overcome the fact that it is South Dakota? It is again, it was a state where Democrats could get elected several decades ago. It is not now. I mean, I'm not going to go through all the numbers in the state. The state legislature is overwhelmingly Republican. Democrats haven't won a governor's race there in decades. Um, how do you overcome that? And why does being, presumably, I assume, why does being an independent give you a better chance?
Uh, I can tell you about a phone call I had literally this morning, like less than an hour ago. I was talking to someone, East River. So for those that don't know,
Now,
that's
I was going to explain South Dakota's geography and politics very quickly on that. Yeah, go ahead.
so the East River, West River divide is kind of a hard thing in the state. But I was talking to somebody East River, and we had a conversation about like, oh, I've been a long time Republican, and I have to be a registered Republican, otherwise my job will be in jeopardy. And he literally said that to me. So I'm a registered Republican. I believed in the Republican Party until roughly 2016 is the date he gave me. And since then, I feel like they've left me behind and become something that is not what I believe anymore. But I have to be a registered Republican.
Mm-hmm.
So the the reinforcement in this state is you will potentially, and he was very sincere that I need my job. So I
Right.
because it's a
And
public.
Republicans control every statewide
Yeah,
office. They could, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So this reinforcement, and not the first person to tell me this. I've heard that multiple times from other people. Like, yep, I can't even be seen publicly supporting you, particularly as a Democrat. But as an independent, I get a little bit of workaround because people aren't trained to hate me. The ideas again that I'm selling are very appealing to a lot of people. I have people from mega, like hardcore mega online folks that are following me that like what I'm saying. So the ideas are appealing. They just don't like where it's coming from. But as
Yeah.
I can bypass the you're a Democrat, I hate you, and just sell the ideas, which is fundamentally what I want to do anyway. It should be a competition of ideas. It shouldn't be a competition of parties. It's the ideas that we're all voting for.
So let's talk about ideas. Tell me what you talk about on the campaign trail. Tell me what you hear from voters. And I'm interested, one of the knocks always is these guys are just Democrats running as independents because that's the only chance that they have. So I want to tell me what you talk about, but then also tell me where are you breaking from what we would consider Democratic orthodoxy back here in DC?
Okay, well, the single thing that I can't point you to any single person who has disagreed with me on this is that big money controls our politics, period. And literally every single person I've talked to, admittedly, I've not talked to billionaires, but every regular person I've talked
They'd
to,
probably admit it too, to be honest. But
they
yeah.
might. And I understand why a billionaire wouldn't vote for me on this one because I'm out there spreading the gospel of billionaires, corporate special interests. These are the people, these are the entities that control our politicians and thus control our government. And the middle class is getting screwed because of it. And we've been getting screwed for decades now. And we're now starting to wake up, and we're going to take our government back because I have people and we talk about, hey, remember what you were taught when you were growing up in middle school and high school? Is this the government that you were taught about? And nobody has ever said, oh yeah, it's working exactly right. So when I say I want what I was promised, and I want what you were promised, because we were all promised the same thing, and it's not there. We're not getting it, and we're going to have to fight about it again. We had this fight over a century ago about money and politics,
Yep.
and we need to have that fight again. And I'm raring to have it. So let's do it.
There's like there's a chart. New York Times posted it. Um, that I think the number is 19% of all political contributions are by billionaires at this point. I mean, it's really remarkable given how small, and I don't mean number of contributions, I mean amount of money. 19% of all the financial contributions made to campaigns are made by billionaires. 1 in 5. And breaking news, 1 in 5 Americans are not billionaires. So it's like it is a remarkable okay, but I want to play cynical political reporter here. How do you to do what you want to do, whether it's on campaign finance or anything else? You got to win.
Yeah.
How do you win? I presume I haven't looked at the latest numbers, but I presume Mike Rounds has a lot more money than you have and is going to have a lot more money. And the truth is you could have the best message in the world, but if you don't have the money to get it out, doesn't matter. How do you, I talked to Mike Duggan, who in Michigan, former Detroit mayor, and he said, look, the biggest problem we have is kind of like institutional donors. Like we need to get the Democrats are people who always give to Democrats. Republicans are people who always give to Republicans. We don't really have that. So how do you, I know South Dakota is not Texas in terms of how much it costs to run a Senate campaign, but it's not nothing. Like how do you raise enough awareness and raise enough money that you're probably never going to raise as much as Rounds, but how do you just get it so people know you're out there and what you're saying?
Well, people like yourself are helping me out. So thank you for that. So we are on a full court press to get out and talk to as many individuals, independent entities like yourself that are spreading the gospel, essentially, as it were, of regular folks are getting the shaft, and we need to be able to fight back. I'm quite proud of the fact that last quarter my campaign finance contributions averaged a little bit over $31, so $31 and change.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Rounds made over 50%, I think 54% of his money was from corporate special interests. And compared to John Thune in 2022, he has less than half of what John Thune had. So I'm already looking at it going, yeah, this is awesome. And we've been telling people, donors, prospective donors, that 10 million bucks and I can deliver a Senate seat in South Dakota, compared to what it costs in Pennsylvania, Florida, California.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fraction of the price.
Much cheaper date, no
Yeah.
question.
So
Yeah.
if you got a spare $100, that's like giving $3,900 in Florida or someplace. So you can give less. If I can get more people to give less, that offsets the fact. And then the more money that Mike Rounds makes, because my message is he's indebted to and does what the big money interests, the corporate special interests, the billionaires want him to do. So the more money he raises from them, because that's who's going to give him money, I'm going to be jumping and shouting of saying, look what I'm saying. Who's he going to vote for? Look who's giving him the money. Oh, he got another $100,000 from this entity.
Mm-hmm.
So this gets people fired up and pissed off. It gets me pissed off. So I can sell it.
Yeah. One problem that I see just looking at the race for you is there is a Democrat in this race. What do you do about that? Because I'm looking at Dan Osborne. Obviously, South Dakota is not Nebraska, but I'm looking at Dan Osborne. Dan Osborne benefited very much from, he lost by 6, but he got 46% of the vote. He benefited from the fact that the Democratic Party of Nebraska sort of, I don't think he wanted their endorsement, but kind of ceded the field to him. How do you solve that problem that even if people don't know who the Democrat is, and I've seen you've released polling that shows you run better against Rounds than the Democrat. How do you solve that problem? Because in a 3-way race, I assume the people who are hardcore Democrats will just default and vote for whoever is the Democratic nominee. That's what often happens. Like, do you need that guy to drop out? Like, how is that math going to work? Because it's already a hard enough race. If you split the Democratic base in South Dakota up, you're definitely not going to win because there's a lot of Republicans. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but like, what work have you put in there? What thought have you put in there? What strategy have you put in there?
Okay. Well, again, my message is appealing across the board. So I will not cast any aspersions across on anybody who steps up into the arena. My hat's off to you, because this is not a pleasant or easy thing to do.
True.
So kudos to the Democrat for doing this. I would just point to the fact that this historic moment in our country is a make it or break it moment, fundamentally, given everything that's going on. And the best ways to measure the possibility of success for a campaign traditionally are fundraising and polling. My polling consistently, 3 polls have showed a clear path to victory for me. I can win this race. I will win this race. My fundraising is going up, continuing to go up. Last quarter, we raised not quite 6 times the amount as the Democrat. So if we go off the traditional metrics of polling and fundraising, I am the better candidate. And I can and will deliver a seat, as I said, for less than $10 million.
What do you what don't people living in and around Washington, including Democrats, we started talking about Chuck Schumer, what do they misunderstand about South Dakota? They look at South Dakota and I think they think like, wow, that's a Republican state. What are we missing?
Well, exactly what I just been talking about. That the message that I'm spreading about, hey, middle class and the working class are getting the shaft from big money, and that career politicians that we send up there, and then they come back every, in Senate context, they come back every 6 years and say, "Oh shucks, you remember me? I'm just from over here in Pier. I'm a father and a grandfather. You know me. I'll work for you." And then they scurry back up to the Senate to get back in the trough and feed off all the money that's flowing through there. So neither party has delivered for us. Both parties have taken for granted where they're coming from, and it's more of a fighting and trying to stick it to the other side rather than practically working together to solve and address problems. As an independent, I don't care who gets the credit. I'm a facts based person. So if there's an issue that needs to be addressed, I've got an open mind. Let's work with it. If it comes from the left or the right is the best solution for farmers, working folks, and the middle class, that's who I'm for. And I will always have allegiance to the people that are here. And the people are starting to wake up and know that if I can get the message out, that they're going to have a better representation because I'll work with anybody and I'll take any idea if it's going to deliver for the people that I'm working for.
And what else? What do you? I'm always fascinated talking to politicians or people running for office. Being labeled a politician now is like a dirty word, so I'll say people running for office. What do you? What do you hear when you travel around the state? What are people talking about? Are they talking about Iran? Are they talking about gas prices? Are they talking about grocery prices? Are they talking about immigration? What's the and I know, look, I know different people have different views. I don't want you to, but like, what are the main things you hear about when you're moving around the state?
Well, again, it depends on who you're talking to. You talk
Right.
to, you hear about the tariffs, and then now I'm hearing more about diesel fertilizer prices.
Yeah.
You talk to ranchers, you hear about beef prices, and oh, we're now importing more beef from Argentina. So they're kind of pissed off about that and the tariffs as well. Gas and diesel prices are now the big topic du jour because they're going crazy
Yeah.
and people are concerned because the costs of everything are going up. So it's kind of a mixed bag of where people are coming from, but everybody kind of coalesces around I'm not doing well. The middle class
Hmm.
shaft and the big money, the big oil companies, they're not going to complain about high oil prices. So the big money is making more money. It takes money to make money and they're doing it. And the regular folks or the people that work for a living are taking it on the chin.
How much or how little do people bring up, or do you bring up Trump?
I don't bring them up, but if other folks bring them up, I talk about the administration's decisions. But no, if I will occasionally get asked, like, "Oh, what do you think of Trump?" And my job isn't to say he's from the other party, stick it to him. My job is to go, okay, I disagree with him on bomb, boom, boom, and I support him on these things.
What do you so are there things that he's done? I mean, one of the things I always struggle with is we now live in this world where either Democrats do everything wrong and Republicans do everything right, or vice versa. And it's like I feel like just my life has taught me that's almost no one does everything right and nothing wrong, or vice versa. Are there places where you, on specific issues, where you would be like, yeah, I mean, John Fetterman gets a lot of shit in Washington for some of the things he's willing to say, like, yeah, like I'm okay with the war, with bombing Iran. Or, I mean, is there something Trump has done where you're like, whether it's the border, foreign policy, where you're like, yeah, I mean, if I don't hate it just because Trump did it.
Well, one of the things that I've talked about with people is his executive order. Again, there's too many executive orders. That's a sign of the dysfunctional Congress, and Congress is not doing its damn job, which is the bigger problem. But Trump's executive order trying to minimize or prevent big money, hedge funds, that sort of thing, private equity from coming in and buying up starter homes everywhere and just knocking the legs out of people who are trying to buy their first home that would then enable them 15, 20 years to buy the next level up.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that, yes, I absolutely support that. We could do it in a legislative fashion more effectively, but if the executive order gets anything accomplished towards that end, that's good. I support that.
Is there a Democrat nationally that, whether it's, I doubt this, but Gavin Newsom or AOC or Gretchen Whitmer or Andy Beshear in Kentucky, is there someone who, oh, you know what? Since you run as an independent, let's throw a Republican out there too. I mean, is there anyone in either party who they don't have to be, super prominent, but you think like, yeah, like that person, I feel like sort of gets it. Is there somebody out there?
Well, I'd say, harkening back to 2024, James Langford with the immigration situation.
Mm-hmm.
Immigration,
Senator from Oklahoma, for people who don't know. Yep.
yeah, I talk about this in my town halls. Is immigration an issue in the last election? Yes. And the one before that? Yes. And the one
Yep.
before that?
Yep.
Why is it always an issue? Well, it's because one party wants to keep it open because it's an issue that works for getting the base motivated, and the other party does not want to address it in the same way the one party. So Joe Biden himself, actually, one of his first bills he put forward was an immigration reform bill, and we need an immigration reform bill. We've needed it since the last time this was done was '86.
I was going to say, I remember McCain running for president in '08, or really it was '07, pushing bipartisan immigration reform,
Yeah.
and it basically bottomed his campaign out among Republicans. And so he just dropped it. He wound up being nominee, but we really haven't had a conversation about a House and Senate, a bill, like a major piece of legislation since then.
Well, it's because each party supports half of what is necessary. So the Republican Party supports the tough border and security and enforcement. Okay, so that is one piece of need, certainly. And the Democratic Party supports we need to overhaul the legal structure of this to maximize who we're bringing in and their path to citizenship and
Mm-hmm.
the administrative function of it to make it easier and flow for more people. So Team Blue supports one side, Team Red supports one side, and nothing's getting done. I support both sides. I'm happy to address this and will actively make an effort to address this and try to get the two sides to work together. I don't know if you've talked to any other independents. Have you interviewed any other?
I have.
Okay. One of the things that we're planning, ideally, because I've been in touch with them, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
deny the majority to either party. If we can get just a handful of independents in the Senate, we can deny the majority to either
Sure.
party, and then we become the pivot for anything going through the Senate. And the price for us is structural reforms, because you're not going to get, everything will be great if we just have more Team Blue or Team Red. They're the reason why the system is dysfunctional right now. It's going to be outsiders like independents coming in to say, no, we need structural reforms to change how the system operates. So when we're in a position to deny the majority, we can make demands essentially and strong arm efforts to address problems as opposed to just put on theatrical performances for our base.
So one thing that and I ask anyone who's running as an independent this, because selfishly, I'm hoping that someone gives me, explains it to me. You mentioned at the beginning, and Gallup does this every year. They do a party identification poll. I think Democrats and Democratic Party was at 23%. Republican Party was at like 23 or 26%, very, and going downward over time. And as you noted, people identifying as independents are at 45%, highest they've ever been. And yet, there are, and I know Bernie Sanders is an independent, but caucuses with Democrats. I know Angus King is technically an independent, caucuses with Democrats. We don't have anybody who is just an independent.
Mhm.
We don't have, we've had some independent governors before, Jesse Ventura being one, Angus King being another, but we don't have it. And so that exists, and what I said about, and you've said about 45% of Americans identify as independents. Why not? If you had 45% of people saying something and the other two parties are in the 20s, I mean, math would seem to suggest me you get 5% more and you've won.
Yeah.
What's the problem? Is it some people, I'll tell you, a lot of independents say to me, the problem is until you win one, people don't think you can win one. But basically, that you got to win a big race at some point. Otherwise, you look like a spoiler. Give me your diagnosis of the gap between people saying they're independents and basically zero independents getting elected to things.
Yeah. Well, structurally, the system actively suppresses independence to the maximum extent possible. I'm dealing with that right now. To get on the ballot, I need more signatures
Yeah.
on my nominating petition than a Republican and Democratic candidate put together. So
I
right now,
think people don't understand. I don't
yeah,
think people understand the structural hurdles that exist, and they're huge and they're very costly. To your
yeah,
point,
yeah. So the system is built by and sustained by the two parties. So they agree on the fact that there shouldn't be anybody else having ideas.
it's true. I always say the one bipartisan thing is they don't want any other parties.
There is the biggest problem.
Yeah.
I've told people that I'm to come back as a United States senator after I win. I will be coming back here. We can't impose it from the federal level, but open primaries, for example.
Yes.
South Dakota will have open primaries when I'm in office, and we are going to address that. We're going to fix this. You talked about spoilers. We have spoilers because the voting system that we use goes back to 18th century Britain. And it was worked great for the landed gentry back then, but there's a lot more people now. And we're keeping with this voting system that does not work and does not account for more ideas, which again, it suppresses competition to work. If we change the voting system to reflect the fact that there's a lot of constituencies these days with differing ideas, and to account for the fact that, yes, more competition is good. We should have, 4, maybe 5 people on the general election ballot, and people can go, oh, I like you, but I like you a little bit less, but I still like you.
Yeah. Like ranked choice. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, one of the things that you're getting at, and I tell people this all the time, is like if you want to change how politics works, it's very unlikely that the current elected officials are going to just wake up one morning and change things, right?
yeah,
The incentive structure is set up to reward the extreme right and the extreme left. It just is. I mean, we
yeah,
can debate it. The only way that you change things is systematic change, right? You have to change the incentive structure of, okay, what are we valuing, right? Otherwise, we're going to get more Marjorie Taylor Greens. We're going to get more Ilhan Omars because the reality is that's what our systems solve for,
yeah.
right? And
What
that's,
what I talk about at town
yeah,
hall, you can't have like, oh, if we only had more team red or team blue. They don't care. The system works for them, obviously.
yep,
So until we have the outsiders coming in, independents, like this is the leading edge of the independent wave nationally, I would say, because of the number of
yeah.
people.
I think it's a big story. I mean, I'm very interested to see. I mean, I do not remember this many credible independents running for statewide office, and I've obviously been doing this for a while. And I'm also intrigued by what it says about kind of as we move into 2028. I do think like that the lesson I take from Donald Trump is there are a lot of people who want to blow up the system. Like I mean, he literally conducted a hostile takeover of
Yep.
the Republican Party and just changed everything that they believe.
Yeah.
And I think there's an open. I mean, I think a lot of liberals will say like, "Oh, we don't want that again." But I do think it does speak to the fact that there is tremendous discontent with the way that things work. To your point,
Absolutely. And I can guarantee, having talked to literally thousands of South Dakotans over the last month or month and a half, yes, there is overwhelming support for. I've had people come in to sign my petition just make it work.
right?
So that is fundamentally the motivation of people, that they just want the thing to work like it worked back in the day, and like
Yep.
we told as kids, like I want it to work like that as well. So
Yeah.
we need to change the incentive system. So again, you're preaching to the choir when you say that stuff.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by
Development
it because
block.
I think if you want, it's the whole definition of insanity. Don't do the same thing and expect different results, right? If you want different things, you have to change the systems
Yeah,
by which we do it. I mean, it's just simple as that. Like it's just, and that's big and hard change. It's not like being like, I'm going to move my desk 3 inches over. I mean, that's systematic change is hard. But I just otherwise we kind of know where we're headed. And I don't think well, there's probably some MAGA Republicans who are like, this is good, we're heading in the right direction. But I know plenty of Republicans and obviously a ton of Democrats and independents who are like the country is not going to a good place. Well, if that's the case, you got to do something different.
Yeah.
I mean, and elect different people. I don't know how else to. It seems to me common sense, but we don't do it a lot.
That is a problem, and I've observed that myself. But
Yeah.
fundamentally, what I'm offering is the prospect of we can change this system together. And again, I'm harkening back to South Dakota history. South Dakota was the first state in the union that got pissed off enough. Regular folks were just pissed about the money controlling the state legislature. And they adopted the first in the country ballot initiative and referendum process that served as a model
Yep.
for other states to go.
Yep.
So South Dakota has this long history of being pissed about big money controlling our government. And I'm channeling that again. So I'm essentially, as I'm going to tell people, their great great grandfather's Republican.
It's like if you stand in one place, everybody in the whole world walks by you. If you stand in one place in politics, it all comes full circle again. Um, Independent South Dakota Senate candidate. I know you're busy. You got to go meet people. You got to go raise money. I know all that stuff. Talking to me is a sidebar. So thank you for making the time. For everyone who joined us live, thank you, Brian. You want to make a plug for? I'll make your campaign staff happy. You want to make a plug where people can find your information?
Thank you. I invite everybody to come check out my website, bengsforsouthdakota.com, and that is BENGS for southdakota.com. I've told people in my state that you can be far left, far right, or in the middle. You will find something you like on my website, guaranteed, because there's plenty of things that 70, 80% of Americans support that the two major parties are not advocating for because it would minimize either the elected officials or the party's power. I'm a proponent of, let's minimize their power and restore it back to where it should be with the regular folks, the voters that are getting the shaft from big money.
We agree on so much more than we disagree, but our politics focuses on what we disagree on. It's a remarkable thing. Okay. Thank you, my friend. Take good care. Best of luck. Enjoy yourself out there.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Be well.